All right. So today we are going to be going through the Orbis Cascades Terms of Use and Fulfillment Unit Rules cleanup presentation. And I've got the slideshow up, and I'm basically going to use one of our environments to like go through the process live. So um, I'm actually starting at in the middle of the slideshow if you're following along in the example scenario. Um, and so here we are in South Puget Sound. I'm going to go into configuration, fulfillment, fulfillment units, and then equipment was the one that I found, and fulfillment unit rules. And we can see that we have quite a few in here, not uncommon at all. And so uh, what I didn't realize was how useful the export list could be, because sometimes you export list and you're like, yeah, that didn't help at all. Um, so we've got the Excel of this, and the Orbis Cascade Standing Group has a few additional things to work with this that they recommend adding. And so what they do is they do add a parameters column, and they kind of just change the output to TOU meaning, um, so that for clarity's sake, I would like, there we go. Okay. So now, basically, in order to fill in this parameters, they say that we go into each rule and look at what it is. So 42-day equipment loan, we go in here, and our input parameters are user group. And I'm going to see how they, um, so what level it is. So it is a, so this first one of 42-day loan is a user group and a location parameters. And then we just continue down the list. So this next one is another user group location. And I'm guessing that what we're going to come to find out is they have some best practice recommendations for how to make these make more sense. Um, so, okay, hold on. So we'll just keep going. 4 hour. Okay, so that one is just user group. Now I'm going to do one more thing that they don't have in theirs. I'm going to add an enabled column, because I do want to see which ones are on and which one are not. So 3, 4, 5 are on. So okay, we've got 6. So I'm gonna say, we've got some that are enabled, some that are not. I want to keep this moving. So what it says is, after matching each parameter to its fulfillment unit rule, You can analyze the spreadsheet to assist in grouping. So they say to check which ones are applied based on which parameters. And so what we've got is all of them are user group and some of them are location. And they say to do this, it's to think about which could be grouped together so there are fewer of fulfillment unit rules. So when we look at the example in the spreadsheet, they show that the item policies of, multiple things include no requesting, and that all of those can basically be grouped together. So I think, and this is where I wanted to make sure that we had someone from the college that I was working with on the call. So I think what they're saying is if we look at, for example, these two, the 42-day equipment loan, we have user group and location, and our output here and our description doesn't really tell us what the two differences are. So if we look in user group for the first one, I'm gonna, we've got student, anonymous, and default. And the location of, we'll say Chromebook. What's it? Chromebook equipment. And then for the next one, it is the same user groups and it's the location of, I'm going to copy and then change it. And it's the location of end of quarter. So they talk about combining no request based on item policy or user group or location. So perhaps these could be somehow combined by item policy instead of location, so that we don't have two different locations and two different rules. And let's actually take a look at, no, that's so, because then we also have this end of quarter reserves and equipment. So now I'm kind of curious about that one because we have this 42-day equipment, but location is end of quarter. And of course it's not active, but neither is this one. So location, end of quarter. So these two are actually the same. Um, so this one, Isaac notes whether or not you want to apply replacement fines is also a thing to consider when consolidating. Yeah, so this one and this one are in fact the same, but there's a, wait, nope, not that one. This one is the same. So neither is enabled. So, we're not too worried about them being weird and working over the top of each other. So that is, um, that's one find already of something that, could be cleaned up. The other thing, that we could check on is the order of our enabled rules because they should be applied from top to bottom, so most restricted to least restrictive. So we want it to catch on community, we want it to catch on ILL and not allow any loans, and then finally it can catch on the 3-day student equipment one. So, okay, Isaac says amount can be different if you enter replacement cost into item record, but applying them or not is controlled at the level of the policy or TOU. Okay, good to know. And yeah, this yeah, as you can see, lots of layers to this. So, um, this is the first step that they suggest looking at, which is basically um, taking an inventory of the rule names and then figuring out where things are duplicated or consolidated. I think one of the things that even if you're not ready to clean them up, that could be extremely useful is doing this inventory and changing the descriptions so that you are using consistent, like visible description so you know exactly what it is before you open it. So they talk about, let me, where is it? They say, um, uh, so description convention should be able to see what each fulfillment unit role does before it opens. So by saying like the description on this 42-day equipment loan, rather than just giving it yet another like 42-day equipment loan, 42-day equipment role, terms of use, 42-day equipment loan, um, the description for this could be, student loan um, and location Chromebooks, because just saying Chromebooks here, um, if someone new comes in and you're like, we have an item policy called Chromebooks and we have a location, like, which is it? Um, so cleaning up the names and descriptions of your rules. Um, the other thing is, so TOU meaning um, is the TOU that is linked to it down here. So I'm guessing that that's kind of the next uh, layer as you're looking at things, because if you've got ones that are all the same TOU, how are the parameters different? You might want to check on things. Okay, so let's keep going on this. So we did the cleaning up fulfillment unit roles. And so they're looking at the requesting one, which is a little bit different because there are kind of you loan or you don't loan, or there's kind of fewer parameters. And so they've got, let's see if we can pull some more scenarios because the request ones. Okay. So that's requests. Here's loans. Maybe we'll go here. So we've got the parameters, the TOU, and you can see they found ones that match. And so if the same TOU is being applied to multiple user groups, those user groups could potentially be combined. So they're looking here at a 3-week regular rule, and how it applies to graduate students, faculty, staff, and undergraduates. But the ELC students rule with the same TOU applies to the early learning community student user group. And so all they do to clean that up is add the user group of early learning community student to the main one and then disable that secondary one. And then they're able to do a description saying combines ELC and 3-week regular. And I think one of the other best practices that I really appreciated in this was the wait and choose. So you can set up new rules if you're not wanting to edit existing ones and leave them not, or I guess I was going to say not enabled, leave them disabled until a time that's more convenient. So if you started to do this work now and then wanted to do it, kind of launch it in the summer. If you are consolidating rules, policies, and TOUs, remember to associate them with the fulfillment units associated with the locations. Yes. Thank you, Isaac, because locations are tied to fulfillment units and can only be tied to one fulfillment unit. So if your item policy that's in the TOU, that's part of the fulfillment unit rule covers a location that's not in that fulfillment unit, it can lead to a lot of confusion. Yes, and you can totally just disable a rule and not delete it. So if we go back here, you can see SPS only has these 3 rules currently enabled. But they have all these different periods, probably based on various time frames that were going on, or I know that SPS has gotten handed laptops by IT and all kinds, the back and forth. So one of the resources that I really like is, and see if I can find it now, is a page on Alma that explains the hierarchy of fulfillment, and that, okay, where is it? Okay, I'll have to search it. It gives you a nice little, yes, I think this is the page. Gives you a nice little flow chart of how things flow into each thing. from the most granular that are set at the individual item level to the terms of use that bring together the user group and the rules and the unit, which is the location, and the item policy. There's also, and it may not be on this page, there's like a little like pyramid graphic that's really useful. And apparently it's not on this one. So I'm going to share this link in the chat. I can't find the chat. There's the chat. If I'm not sure I can confirm this, as analytics can act a little bit weird sometimes. But potentially if you delete a location or a unit rule, it will no longer show up in analytics. However, I'm wondering if that may location, even if it's deleted, does still show up, because I've been doing some cleanup with folks, and that's and then I wonder if you use historical physical item activity, if its fulfillment rules and policies and everything would still show up depending on the report you ran, because like what it was under at the time of the action. Okay, but I do want to find that other one. Maybe it's in here. Well, it's not in the video. But it could be in the video. But I know there was a picture of it. No, this is all. The other thing with fulfillment units, locations, item policies, etc. You may discover something. Hopefully, I hope you don't discover it, because it's very annoying. So we're working at the institution level here, the college level, but it is possible, obviously, to do fulfillment configuration at library level, and item policies at library level. However, you really, really don't want to be messing with these at a library level, because then the library level policies and the college level policies get unconnected, even if they have the same name, and that can cause a lot of issues. So the way that you can know if your item policies have become disconnected is whether or not it says customization mode. So this says entire table needs to be customized, and we can delete it. That means that the library and the college are no longer connected. So you can restore that connection by reaching out to Ex Libris support. If they are still connected, the customization mode would say inherited from. When we go to this library level, it would say customization mode inherited from institution, and you would not be able to delete any of these item policies. So at least it looks like, okay, you have 19 at the library and 19. They all look the same, Um, so that's good, but you can see that these were put in 2016. Whoops. And these were updated in 2017. So it's for some reason they were unlinked in 2017. Isaac has another tip. Helpful to change the name and add do not use if you are going to disable and like kind of get rid of a rule name. I'm also wondering, like, could you theoretically like change, like just get rid of all of the parameters and give it a TOU of like default do not circulate? What's your thought on that? Um, anyway, let's continue. So like if you have if you have one that you don't want to use anymore, could you keep like you have the rule name and then your description is do not use, but then you basically don't have any parameters in it? Like, could you just like kind of empty it out? Like, and then, like it definitely wouldn't get applied to anything, um, even if it got enabled again. Um, yeah. Oh, and Sarah also has an Eluna Learns session that she found helpful. This was from back in November. Um, and this second one here from setup to checkout. And all you have to do to watch these is hit the register/watch recording. Um, and it will have you fill this out, and your institution name, it does not matter. You can put Whack-To-Click, you can put Washington Community and Technical Colleges, you can put your college. They will figure it out and give you access. So, um, yeah, that's another good resource. Um, I think, like just creating some, like if you had one spreadsheet and it was like, equipment rules, and you just, like you could start to take a look at that inventory of policies that you have and how you're determining things. The other way you can do an inventory of locations and item policies is through analytics. Um, so I'll also show you that. And this is a me thing. It's not in the Orbis Cascade thing. So if we go into Access Analytics, and I don't even know what we're going to find because I haven't looked here. And let's see if I can find the one I've used before and not have to completely remake it. So basically I found a report that shows the number of items with a certain item policy by location. So this one is like the ones that are active, and then here's the one from, it looks like Wisconsin. Let's see what the, well, yeah. Okay. So obviously let's copy this so that we don't mess up theirs. Okay. So I'm gonna go copy, and I'll just put this in my folder and paste. All right, now we'll edit this one. All right, so now we can see, and I think I would edit this a bit. Like we probably don't need campus code, and we don't need location code and location. And now we can see if we move this and then location name and item policy and the number of items. Now we can see if there are any kind of like weirdness. So our children's books have no item policy, display have no item policy. Feature films, we have a mix between none, 3-day, and 2-day. So that might be something to look at. Educational discs and tapes, we've got some on 3-day, one with restricted access. We've got something in storage, do not circulate, with a 3-day loan. Presumably someone couldn't find it, so it wouldn't be a big deal. So print books for checkout. We've got pleasure reading one randomly with a reference item policy. One teacher-owned item with a 2-hour loan. 3-day equipment checkout. Some have an item policy of 3-day loan and some do not. So this is another good report to kind of just see what's going on. So in this case, not very many items have an item policy. So that really makes a lot more sense, having looked at those fulfillment unit rules and having them be based on location and user group, since there's, not a lot of item policies in use. Now, on the flip side, since there aren't a lot of item policies in use, there are a lot of item policies that we saw. I mean, there were 19 of these, and we can sort these, but 2-week, 2-hour, 2-day, 3-day are about the only ones actually in use. So like that might be something to look at. How are you using item policies? So that's a pretty easy one to just find. What was the other one? Yeah, leave. I also, Mary, you're here. What were some of the other reports that we ran for you guys? Do you remember? Yeah, because we found some good ones with item policy, and then the other one was, you could always log out and go into theirs. But let's take a look at someone else's environment just for the fun of it. Yakima volunteered, and something tells me that it's going to be real interesting with whatever we find. So policies, so an item policy is meant to function as an exception to the default. So theoretically then, if it's set up correctly, then that would be, seeing a bunch of nuns would mean that those just fall into the default of whatever the TOU is. Whereas if you wanted an item policy of like DVDs having a different replacement cost, it would give it, that exception. So let's take a look. Okay, catalog titles with no inventory. Yep, that's always a good one. Item counts by location and titles with holdings. Oh, mismatched format. Yeah, so the other three that we were looking at were more catalog-y and specific bib kind of stuff. Let's take a look though, just at somebody else's and see what their item policy and location relationship is. Could definitely be a total mixed bag. Nope. Oh, yeah. Well, there we go. Okay, locations and item policies. So let's take a look at this one in Yakima and see what happens. Okay, so here's an example of lots of um, different item policies in a location. And I am curious how you rock stars of fulfillment uh, would think about um, doing this kind of cleanup. Because I feel like, this is a whole other thing of trying to streamline. Any thoughts? One of the things that Mary did at North Idaho was we were able to identify um, locations where, because they have like a DVD location, there really shouldn't have been, for example, DVD item policies in main stacks. Now, if your DVDs are in your main stacks location, then that makes total sense. We also identified like 10 different reserves policies, and we're able to see how many active items were attached to those different periods. And so like, and also, like see like, okay, so we have 2 hour at reserves and at circulation desk. And so like, what are the difference between those locations if the item policy is the same? So just kind of like looking into the reason behind the connections. Everybody's library may function completely differently, and circulation desk location is really and truly a completely different location from reserves, but maybe it's not. We also can see here that they have equipment media center in the Raymond Library at the circ desk, but I'm pretty sure that this item policy was created specifically for their media center location or library and location. So um, that's a probably a good one to look into. You can also see they have a location name of tech services. That isn't really a standard circulating location sounding kind of name. So why would there be things with item policies? Um, so Isaac's uh tip on my kind of like how would you deal with that is looking at item call categories and finding out the desired circ period lengths, fine applications, and then actually consulting your circ department. And more often than not, probably realizing that some of those things don't align with existing TOUs. And then so most items in a unit should follow the default rules. Sarah says you can set different rules for things within a fulfillment unit, um, but you want those rules to do the heavy lifting and then use policies, item policies to get the exceptions to the rules. Um, yes. And so Sarah has been working on that cleanup for Edmonds, and like if you have notes sometime and would love to share. I think this is where the complexity, I mean, like, raise your hand if this is where the complexity of Alma feels like it's just too much for your tiny library. Um, but really and truly, if you let um default stuff do most of the work and just define those exceptions, um that is probably where the power of Alma does kind of shine. So figuring out you know what is what is the reason for 16 different checkout periods. Oh, there's not, and only two are in use. Great. So, you know, disable those other ones, move things onto a thing that's all named the same thing. Um, One of the things that more schools are doing is combining the faculty and staff user groups. Um, and because those fulfillment rules aren't any different. I also, like strongly just encourage having really similar fulfillment rules for faculty and staff for most stuff, unless it's really only a student only uh, item. I mean, honestly, I was faculty and we're the worst at returning things on time, so don't let us keep it for 4 months. Um, Yeah, Sarah, I'd love to kind of have you chat at a future time. That's cool. Um, yeah, so Isaac says that, and I'm guessing so that the way that your rules are written, items don't circulate if there's no item policy on it. Is that what I'm gathering? Ooh, yeah. So, um, yeah, so that's a like a good note that having, a parameter of item policy in one of these fulfillment unit rules means that if an item that falls under that doesn't have that specific item policy, which, like those are so easy to mess up or not apply or whatever, it's not going to circulate correctly. And I think all too often, um, our circ folks are like our frontline circ folks are just such superheroes at figuring out that like, oh, override due date because they just know like, well, this should have checked out for this many days. But it makes it really hard to train new people. It makes it really hard for anyone to go on vacation. And it's an inconsistent experience for users if you have to constantly be asking someone else. Um, it would make sense that Voyager was set up more like that, and then it was replicated in Alma because older systems really relied on those like specific connections and the intricacies as opposed to more of a default inherited like structural approach. Um, and that's true whether it's libraries or not. So we can't blame it on just the library systems and how they were built. Um, so yeah, I have most definitely kind of babbled. Also, fulfillment is not my strong area. So I did want to bring some resources to the group and kind of see what experiences you all had and could share. Because I have been finding consistently over the last 2+ years um, that this hierarchy within Alma of library location, fulfillment unit, rules and policies and TOUs um, is messy and seems to be making more work for people a lot of times. And I just couldn't kind of put my finger on why. Um, so I would love to kind of have some more discussions and more help and best practices shared out. Did I share all of the links for stuff? Um, this is so here's the physical locations. Here's that eLuna Learns page, which is already in the chat, but in case you lost it. And where here is the fulfillment standing group from Orbis Cascade. Um, and then here's the fulfillment essentials, which I have not even dug into, but also seems awesome. So maybe we can do our own little workshop series on this. So, and just for the record, this is where they have their letters and notification stuff. So, this is older and some of the stuff has changed since then, but yeah, it's still good and gives you kind of an idea of how letters customization works. All right, it's 10:53. Um, and I'd love to get any final tips or resources that you want to share into the chat before we stop recording, so that all of that can be saved. I think I'm a couple months behind on posting recordings, but should be catching up here soonish. And we have just I think one more winter, excuse me, open call next week at 10 a.m. The week following, I am taking spring break. So I'm just going to take the whole week off. So we will not have an open call on the 24th. And our spring open calls will start back up on April 1st. Um, so um, I look forward to kind of bringing fulfillment to the group again, and sharing out some more of your successes, and um, and we can all learn together. Yeah, I picked the 24th, the week of the 24th, just kind of arbitrarily based on like didn't have anything but open call scheduled yet. Because like Spokane uh colleges spring breaks are next week, I think. I don't remember. Like my band concert was last week, so I don't have band again until forever, like April 7th. Um, but I figured I'd hit at least a few people's spring breaks, and not my kids' spring break, so I'd actually get a break. Um, and then during the second week of April, we will have an open call that Tuesday, and then I'm headed to the Tacoma area on Wednesday. I already have one visit scheduled, um, with Green River, but I have all day Thursday, and I'm hoping to see a few other folks. So reach out if you'd like a visit. I will also be reaching out so I can fill my time. Um, so yeah, have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week. And let me know if you want help exploring any of this stuff in your own environment, and I'll get these recordings up soonish. All right. Thanks so much.